Two. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Precious Metals Mania. I'm Jason Gwynn. Tonight, we have a special guest tonight back from Canada, Mr. Luke. Welcome, Luke. How are you?
I'm doing very good. Yourself?
Awesome, man. Awesome. I know you wanted to get back on the channel and, bring some fire to the people, the viewers, and the subscribers, as we call the Precious Metal Maniacs. First, that's the first time we dropped that on the subscribers. But yeah, man, it's awesome to have you back on. I know the people that probably viewed your video with us previously got a lot of content, got a lot of value out of it. So looking forward to tonight, and I'm gonna be taking notes as well. So whenever you're ready, the floor is yours, man.
Definitely. I'm glad to be here, and I'm happy to give some information for everybody.
Awesome.
So one thing I'm definitely happy to talk about is I just finished a great book by one of the economists, my favorite economist in Canada. His name is John, and so the full name of the author is it's a long name. It's John Thorstrup Sneisen, and this is the book he wrote. It's actually a really good book, The End of Freedom, How Our Money System Enslaves Us. He explains a lot of history and a lot of, not necessarily prediction, but consequences of things that are currently happening in this world. He brings up a lot of the devaluation back in the olden days, like the Roman Empire and the Greek Empire and all those things, and what happened when they were devaluing their currency and what it came at what cost it came, losing their empires over time. He spoke also about the first currency that came out, in China, one of the first founders of currency and how it failed, and explained that currencies. He explained the list of currencies that lasted the longest to lasted the shortest amount of time, and explained that some hyperinflated and some didn't, and explains the how practically almost all of them fell. And as he goes further in the book, he explains that we're currently heading into a phase similar to history, but within financial bubbles and
Yeah,
within very, very big companies that are fueled by, I, I could say, greed. I don't want to say the name of the big companies because I wouldn't want the videos to be taken off of the internet, but
sure.
those big companies are greedy and are taking advantage of the citizens of our world. And what happened is, with using that greed, causing harm to others in order to make a big profit, and in order to keep that bubble going up, or keep going that inflation going up, so those companies can stay alive, they have to create more and more chaos in order to keep that economy rolling. And it's very sad when you know that the economy is dependent on the harm of others. And this is what that book explains pretty much, really, as the title explains it. The money system is enslaving us, so we're pretty much just pawns in a system in order to keep an economy, well, a dying economy, rolling. And it's a very good book. So yet again, The End of Freedom by John. If you follow him on Facebook, his page is called The Economic Truth. I will ask Jason to add a little link at the bottom if you're ever interested to buy the book. It's a very good book, a
Cool.
Canadian author, and he's got a great website. He's got a great Facebook page, and he gives a lot of insight about precious metals in general. So he's very good, and he has great insight. And yeah, so do you have any question regarding that author? If you before I proceed with today's subject,
I'm
Jason.
great. I'm great, Luke. Like I say, I'm just taking notes as we go. I think it's very interesting to for the viewers that, money systems enslaving us / history. China was the first current currency slash, that fell off, etc. I'm just taking notes as we go, so I'm just
Yeah,
I'm just
definitely.
I'm taking up with you, man. So take the
Yeah,
floor.
no problem. I just wanted to see if you had any questions for our viewers, anything that you might like in particular regarding that book, anything that he talks about, anything, any countries in specific that they like to know, or anything about the history of the United States, or anything like that. I have no problem answering regarding this book. Uh, I try my best to memorize it when I read books like this, and especially when
Yeah,
it's fresh, it's when I can give the most information to the viewers.
yeah. Actually, myself, I've never even heard of that book, so I want to get the full name and the full title.
Yeah,
If you hold that back up for the picture, I
I'll
can
show the
write
book
that
again.
down.
But
The
if you
the end of
for all
freedom.
for all the viewers, if you want to look at the bottom of the video, we'll be added that link and the name of the book if you're ever interested in reading it.
There
Like I
you
said, it's
go.
a Canadian author, and he's very big on precious metals, cryptocurrencies, and holding cash at home, not in a bank account, but home somewhere stored or in a personal vault. Just
Awesome,
let
awesome.
viewers know, just to give insight. So now I'm gonna start speaking about our main subject about today, which is um, what should you do to protect your wealth. So
Awesome.
today I'll be talking about what's currently going on with the precious metal market. But before we jump to conclusions and talk about the trends, this market, let me start by saying that I'm not giving anybody any financial advice. And simply, I'm just giving my personal insight regarding the markets and all. Now, let's work together in order to understand why metals, like for example, silver is a good hedge, even gold, or a lot of commodities in general is a good hedge, but not people know. But silver is an industrial metal, and it's used for all sorts of things like electric cars, solar panels, technology.
Cell
Reason
phone.
why, yeah, cell phones, anything really. Like
Yeah.
it's an excellent asset for that reason, because everybody needs silver. People are addicted to technology, making silver a very valuable asset. If you keep going through the script, you'll know about this. This video, you'll notice that it gets more interesting. The reason why silver is a popular choice, it's because silver is one of the best drivers of electricity in the world. But not a lot of people know that. Now, let's take in consideration that we all own some piece of technology, like I mentioned, at our home, or at work, our computer, our cell phone, even that Alexa box probably has some piece of silver. If it doesn't, well, it's very likely that it does, though. Uh, my point is that we use silver like crazy, but some take the supply for granted. The market is super small, especially if you put it beside the gold market. A lot of people, if you do your own research, you'll notice the gold market is huge compared to the silver market. Gold is also a very small market, but silver is much smaller. My point is that we use, ah, sorry. So let's say that any impact in the economy can affect the demand and price of the metal dramatically. Let's use the financial crisis of 2008, for example. When the bailouts took place, the federal bank started to do a process that's been used during the Great Depression during 1932, a strategy that consists of buying financial assets. With the financial system, that classic strategy is called quantitative easing. I don't know if a lot of people have heard about that subject. I don't know if you know anything about quantitative easing, Jason. Ever heard about that subject?
I've heard a little bit about it, but I don't know much about it myself. No.
All right, no problem. So if you want to put it in simple terms, quantitative easing is printing money, if you really want to make it simple. So the government is constantly printing money. in order to sustain the economy. So it's getting in more debt in order to sustain the economy. So in this book that I was talking about that I just finished, he gives a good explanation about how fractional reserve banking works. So that you lend a dollar, you put a dollar in the bank, then they give more dollars to other people in loans, meaning that the your savings in your bank account is pretty much the bank's assets, and they use it for fractional lending. So the more money you have them in the bank, the more they can lend. The more debt it creates, the more inflation it creates in the world. So let's jump a little bit in history. So those who understand history knew that precious metal prices would rise during that process, causing an inflation in the financial market, affecting dramatically the price of gold. In the process, the reason silver rises second is because gold is always the popular choice for wealth protection. But when the prices get very dramatic for gold to all times highs, silver will usually be second to gold, which is used as an excellent indicator to better understand the markets. Think silver as gold's unstable little brother, because gold is very stable. It's gonna go up. It's gonna go up gradually, and then there's gonna be a little downfall, and then usually it's gonna go back up. Very stable. But silver will go high, then will go low, then will go high again, and go low, because it's there's not a very small quantity, so it ends up inflating very fast. So let's see here. You see gold rise like a rise, then silver goes nuts. Silver is gonna go up from $5. And then you see gold going down a little bit, and then you're gonna see it drop by $5 and sometimes even more. It's making like silver super unstable, but it's great to make profit with it. So making silver very volatile because of its short supply. So so if we discuss a bit, let's go jump a little bit about the quantitative easing. Uh, so So if we discuss a bit about quantitative easing that took place in 2008, gold went nuts and started to go up after all the derivatives and leverage positions were corrected, reaching all-time highs in a couple years after the financial crisis of 2008. So around 2010, gold was like seeing its glory days. Like it was like people who hold gold were like, "Oh my God, this is great! Like we're doing really good right now." Well, not necessarily. It's just what happens. Their wealth was protected from the inflation that was
Right.
coming because of 2008. And shortly after, QE2 came along. So when QE2 came along, people were beginning to be really worried about the hyperinflation because they did QE1, which caused a lot of fear in the markets. People were running for gold, and then they did QE2. And then like people were like, okay, well, if we're heading for a hyperinflation, maybe we should go for silver because people think that QE2 would head to a hyperinflation, which silver is the best hedge for any hyperinflations. Like if you like ask anybody in Venezuela, they're gonna agree with what I'm saying. Do a
Yeah.
lot of research. You do your own research. There's a hyperinflation in Venezuela. I think they're going through their second hyperinflation. Um they went on a new dollar uh, last year, I believe this year, early this year, last year. And when they wanted the new dollar, when the oil prices crashed in March, well, guess what? Because the economy is so dependent on oil, their currency just inflated like crazy again. And it's like it happened many times already. So it's very disappointing for the people who live in those countries that are dealing with hyperinflation. But if they own any assets, especially like silver, silver helps a lot of those people because what happened is they own silver while that it's used again as an edge for hyperinflation, making that value hold. So most of the people in Venezuela can almost feed a family for a month with that ounce of silver. I might be wrong because of probably the things might change right within the value of the silver itself and other commodities. But if you do your own research, you're gonna notice that people who hedge against silver during those before those hard times came along, were able to afford a living today. So let's so like I said, so metals is a big player for when it comes to hedging for inflation. Uh, Countries that go into hyperinflation can also use crypto. Crypto is a second option, but I personally prefer the precious metal market because you hold it, you own it, it's in your hands. Crypto, well, it's in a system. So just something to take in consideration, or other currencies. So let's say I'm afraid that Canada is going to go into hyperinflation. We're not saying that it will, but let's say I want to hold the US dollars, for example. I want to hold them at home, safe somewhere, or in a vault somewhere. And we head into a hyperinflation, and our country is still in good terms with the U.S. Well, they would take our dollars and they would convert it for Canadian dollars, and I'd probably be able to feed myself during a hyperinflation, because the U.S. could go in as high. I'm just giving my insight. I'm not saying this would happen, but let's say if Canada is in a hyperinflation and the U.S. isn't, then I'd be able to use another currency to pay my expenses to protect myself as an hyperinflation. That was a technique that was used a lot back in history. Sorry. So in order for people to live comfortably, right? But what do you do when all currencies are in the process of becoming either devalued or dramatically or possibly even reach hyperinflation, like almost all at the same time? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if it does happen, well, but it is a phenomenon that is very likely to happen when money is injected into like Main Street, and that's pretty much what's happening today. So let me just give an insight on what Main Street is. So Main Street is us. It's the money that makes the world go round, pretty much. Like when you see QE1 and QE2, they're injecting money in financial assets. But when they gave UBI, they're pretty much just taking that money and giving it to the people. And that creates an inflation because the money is going everywhere, right? And I think that inflation goes into commodities, anything that's being purchased, like stuff we need, right? And well, that was pretty much around happening during around the March time of 2020, and shortly during that time period after. So that's pretty much what exactly happened. Like I mentioned, the basic income was offered to the public, causing more liquidity into our economy. It's important to understand the more liquidity we have in an economy, the more likely that liquidity will be less valuable. So it's causing the prices of everything to rise. So including food, basic means of living, which is pretty important when you think about it.
Very.
But this isn't new. It's happened like in history, like I mentioned earlier, over and over, and it's not going to be the last time, and it's not the first. So it's something to expect. It's just people have to, understand history and understand how to defend themselves against, the inevitable. It is inevitable. You can't just run away from history repeating itself. It's nature. It is what it is. You can't really change like a cycle, how things work. So like the fall of the Roman Empire was a great example. I'll use what they were doing. They were mixing copper in their gold, and over time making their money practically useless, because there was like a bunch of copper, and eventually probably used other metals that were even worth less than that copper, just to get around, just to be able to pay for those wars and pay for stuff to happen, to keep that power going. But that creates inflation, making that money much more useless. So you as an individual, you might not see the process happening, but it's been going on for almost a century. It started with the Bretton Woods gold standard system. I don't know if you ever heard about the Bretton Woods system, Jason.
A little bit. Not that much, but a little bit.
Okay. So I'll give you an example of the Bretton Woods. So what happens after the Great Wars? The Bretton Woods was a system that was established that was under a gold standard. That the American economy had most of the gold because what happened is to fund the wars, uh, the American, the American would use their farmlands and all that to produce food. They weren't really like implied in the wars as much as you know the countries around Germany were. So or they were very dependent on the U.S. bringing them supplies. I'm pretty sure probably Canada as well. So the U.S., Canada was, and other countries were helping the alliance to get their food. So they were getting paid by in gold and not notes. So what happened is all those countries were paying in gold. So what happened is all the gold was pretty much owned by the U.S. So the U.S. made a deal. They said, "Look, we own all the gold. We might as well just make a Bretton Woods a system, and we're gonna call it where we like the." They probably made a decision with a big committee, and they said we're gonna make a Bretton Woods system, and we're gonna that system is gonna be based on an American dollar that is backed by gold, so you can exchange that dollar for an ounce of gold, and that was the original deal. So everything was well and dandy during that time. So the Bretton Woods system, let's see here, it was around the 40s, around the 1940s. I'm not exactly about the exact year by heart, but it was during the 1940s. I do recall that. And so after the Bretton Woods system was put in place, years of peace were, coming back. People were starting to forget about the Great Wars and were less conservative, increasing their spendings and leveraging their money. Well, eventually that leveraging kind of got out of hand. And during the 60s, over time, forcing the federal bank, well, to start to go into a process of, when you overlend money that you don't own, because they were lending gold that they had in their vaults. But what happened during the 60s, they were overlending that money. They were letting more gold that they actually had. So they had no choice. In 1971, well, they took the leap of faith and pretty much closed the gold window because they didn't have that gold. So they just, well, we can exchange it for gold because we can't. Nixon said in 1971, we're closing the gold exchange during some TV show that was happening. I wasn't born during that time, so I don't really know. But that's what's one of the things that happened in history is that because they overlended that money and because they didn't have that money and they didn't want to go bankrupt, they said we're just gonna get off that gold standard so that way we can get away with that lending. So now the world didn't have a backed currency anymore. They had fiat money.
Yep.
So let me keep going. Let me keep going that fiat theory here. So creating a fiat currency was pretty much that was backed by nothing but confidence, which is really not a good thing. And now we're in a day and an age that our people and nation are starting to lose confidence in their dollars and lending and in the leaders, which could potentially, trigger over time possibly a uh, a revolution. I'm not saying that's a possibility, but economic cycles will say that revolutions will happen after a certain amount of time. If you read a book written by Harry Dent called Zero Hours, they explain how a revolution happens every certain times as a healthy economic cycle in order to bring back balance in our system, causing a reset in our economy, making in the process making pretty much all currencies useless. But we can't really know how this will set out and play because we can't see in the future, right? We don't really have a crystal ball. And if that does ever happen, well, most likely some sort of a barter system would probably take in place. So there's a possibility would be either cash, alternative currencies, uh, for a new foundation of a reborn economy. So alternative currencies could be, anything from gold, silver, even cryptocurrency. Uh, it's hard to say which one would be the choice, but either way, precious metal will always hold its value. So making it a good protection regardless, because if there's a new currency, you can still use that in order to sell it to use that currency in the near future. Uh, Now I could go on and on regarding this subject, but it's important to remember that what I'm saying here is not financial advice, but more of my personal insight, my personal views towards today's economy. If everybody has any question, don't hesitate to ask me. I'm gonna be more happy to answer any questions. That concludes my in order to you know put everything in clarity. So pretty much this should pretty much conclude my presentation. So Jason, do you have any questions regarding everything?
Yeah, just basically great content as always, Lucas. You know, the I want to point out some of the notes I took. You know, one of the books you mentioned, Harry Dent, 0 Hours, guys. If you haven't read that book, pick it up. Lucas recommends it. Me and him are good friends, and if he always recommends anything on the channel, I would always recommend that as well. Um, at the very end, he always says precious metals will always hold its value regardless of what anything else does. So, you know, we're a precious metals mania, and you know, I'm a big collector. Colby's a big collector. He's out tonight. You know, I'm sure Lucas holds some medals as well. Um, you know, and again, guys, to be clear, you know, this happens time and time again. Some people still think the dollar is backed by gold. It is not. President Nixon took the gold standard off the dollar, off the fiat currency in 1971. The gold, the fiat currency, the dollar is not backed by anything right now whatsoever. To be clear, it is not. I still talk to people all the time and they say it's backed by gold. It is not. It got took off in 1971, to be clear.
Yeah, that's definitely that definitely covers a good portion. And yeah, so Jason, I'm just curious. So do you have any questions regarding anything regarding what we talked today? I talked today for the crowd and everything for
Well,
anybody watching.
one of the things I did make a bullet point on is Lucas is I know for myself as a collector of silver, you know, you said silver is the best driver in the world. What are your thoughts behind that, and why do you believe in that as well?
Like you talk about a driver for electricity.
Just in general, silver as a commodity.
Okay, well, like when I said I mentioned like a driver for electricity
Sure.
uh, as a commodity. What happened is silver is used for electronics and everything, making
Yep.
it very attractive for pretty much anything in the anything that uses silver, like a computer, anything that has a chip interface, even your solar panels. Solar panels are very dependent on silver. And what happened is the reason I'm very bullish on silver, it's because that silver is used in solar panels in decent amount of volumes. And what happens as the little soldering that goes right, you got your panel, and then under it you have like some. You always got to see a silver lines going everywhere. That is the silver itself. And what happened is that silver is used for solar panels. And what happened is they're trying to go green. The economy is trying to go green. They're pushing a green economy. They want to go for green electronic cars over time. They want to push for solar panels, and anything for technology. Everybody owns a cell phone, and over time, people are gonna go for augmented reality. That's probably gonna use silver as well. And your computers, well, that's always gonna be it. technology is going to shrink over time, yes, but the silver supply is going to shrink just as fast as the technology gets smaller. So either way, because the silver supply is going to shrink and shrink and shrink more, and people are just throwing out their technology like they really don't care, instead of recycling it, well, that makes the silver supply much smaller. I'm not surprised if the silver supply reduced by at least a good 50% or not, or if not more, over the years that people got into technology. And technology has been a thing for not even that long. Like using like a technology pretty much boom around the 2000s. Like I'm not talking about great volume.
Right. Right.
So over a span of 20 years of excessive use of technology, and you're already like starting to have shortages on silver, especially during March. If you wanted to purchase your bullion, it was very hard. You had a hard time purchasing silver. You could purchase some gold, but silver was very hard to get through. You had to look around for specific dealers, like dealers that would hold in larger bulk values. And most of the time, you had to order in bigger values from those dealers in order to get your bullion. So that's one thing that I believe that would be a big driver of silver will be the fear of hyperinflation being one. The second, the economy going green over time and pushing green electricity, green powered vehicle, green, pretty much green anything, right? And so those are two really big factors. And the price of the silver is not profitable for mines. Well, there's practically no profit to be made with silver. So over time, if they want to start mining silver specifically for silver mines, well, there's gonna be one thing they're gonna have to do. They're gonna have to increase the price of silver so they can start mining it more. And people are addicted to technology. So what people are gonna want? They're gonna want more silver. So by
Right.
increasing the price, you
Right.
get more silver. So that's one big thing. So if they increase the silver price by a lot, well, people eventually might be like, you know what, maybe it's a good time to sell my silver to cash in, buy some stuff I always wanted, like a new house or stuff like that, right? Just ideas, but
Yeah.
it's pretty much my big view on why I'm very bullish on silver. And there's very good, like I believe personally, it's very good points, but I'm sure there's many, many more reasons that silver's going to go up. But those are my three big reasons why I believe it's a driver of,
A-
I believe it's a bull market in the future.
Absolutely, man. Great insight. Great information. Um, I'm gonna put you on the spot here. I hate to do that, but it's always good to for the viewers and the beginners, especially for yourself. And I know for me, what I do, what I like, and what I do. But for somebody just starting out, what would you recommend for somebody just starting into silver to collect or start investing in? Your opinion. Go.
So if somebody wants to buy silver, so you want to start, I'd say don't leverage your money. Don't go like crazy. And that's my first big advice. Don't go in a bank and be like, I want to like buy, you know, a big amount of silver because most people get excited by an emotional uptrend in the market. People are going to buy a massive amount. And sometimes you end up buying in like a micro bubble, I guess you can call it. Sometimes the market are go up, but they're potentially going to go down over time. So usually what you want to do is you might want to buy a little bit here and there, just like I'm going to put $1,000 here and there. If you get free shipping, good. Buy small quantities, like maybe put 10% of your paycheck aside. Say you make $1,000, put $100 aside. And then once you have enough for free shipping, then buy your silver. And then you just keep doing that process. Rinse and repeat, 10%, 10% every time. So over time, while you're not spending your whole life savings on something, you're not spending all your capital on something, you're just spending 10% of your paycheck. And everybody can do 10%. And that can be gold, that can be silver, that can be platinum, that can be palladium, all for very popular precious metals. And if you're curious a little bit, copper can be one too. But if you really want to stick on important base metals, I'd say gold and silver definitely one of the big ones. Silver for the most part, I'd go for that. I'd say my personal views on silver. I'd say I like to remain in the non-collector's view on it. So I'd say just to buy the standard bullion. So if you don't want to store it at home, I'd say to store it on like a private vault, so that way nobody can steal it from you, like something that's insured. So that way, something happens, well, you get your money back no matter what, and or you get your bullion back. Either way, that's how it's important to do your research on a proper vaulting service. So that way, well, if something happens, you can either get the option of getting shipped it out to you, and most of the time those costs are not that high. Silver is a heavy metal, so you might expect heavier price for shipping. But if you go for gold, then the shipping price is going to be peanuts compared to silver. So that's one big advantage with buying gold first, is that yeah, you're gonna pay more for that gold, but you're gonna get cheaper shipping because it's a smaller metal first of all, and you get more. The price is higher for the smaller quantity. So for shipping convenience, gold. For if you want to have something for potential capital gains in the future, I'd say silver's this is very decent. Um, so yeah, me, I prefer personally the Canadian maples. That's my personal views. Before you do go dealing with dealers, you want to make your research. So you can start by asking them, is my quality of silver or gold, is it a 999 purity or 9999 purity? So the difference between the 999 and the Ford and the 9999 purity is that the more nines that you got, the more pure it is. So it's 99% or 99.9%, so 90%, or 99.99%. So the more nines there is, the more the purity is. So something that's very important to take into consideration. So if you notice you got 99.9%, so that 0.10% will decrease the price of your silver when you buy it. And if you got 99.99%, then the price of the premium of that silver is going to be more. But most of the time, when it comes to liquidating your silver, you're going to end up getting the same premium as most, depending on your silver dealer. Some of them are going to be more lenient towards specific demands, but most of the
Right.
time you're going to get the same thing for your premium.
Right.
Depending on your dealer. But yeah, so for the most part, I believe that touches the subject regarding for new starters. Let me see if there's anything else I'd like to mention for them.
Yeah.
So I covered a big portion. Uh, so yeah, I'd say a good idea to store a small amount at your home, not a big amount, because you don't want people breaking into your house. If people start finding out you got a lot of silver or gold at your house, people are gonna want to break into your house. So that's not a good thing. And if you you can store it into a private vault, like one of those little personal that you buy from a personal company, but you don't have insurance for it. You can insure it, but most of the time they just insure it for like jewelry and stuff like that, or sometimes something that isn't really like of extremely high value, something of decent value, but it's not gonna be an extravagant insurance. And then you can like I said, you can store into a big private vault or a small private vault company that uses insurance companies to cover you. So if something ever happens, well, you get your money back. But you have to take in consideration that if there is a confiscation, that is one risk that you're taking when you store your money with a precious metal dealer or a private vault with a private company, is that if there's gold or silver gets confiscated, well, you're not going to get your gold and silver back. You're going to get paid back in notes. So that's one thing. Sorry, in notes, in currency. So that's one thing you have to take in consideration, that if there is a confiscation, you're you won't get your precious metals back. But if
Right.
if you pay attention to all the cycles and everything that's going on in the world, and you can uh, call a trend before it happens, then you can get it shipped out of your house before anything happens. But I mean, there's nothing that prevents. Anyways, we're not going to go into too much details. I think that touches the subject for precious metals. But yeah, anything for newcomers, I'd say start small. small, then learn, make your research, read some books, and then once you start getting more confident into it, buy a bit more here and there. That's my biggest advice. Just go small, here and there, put 10% here and there, and that's good enough.
I love it, man. That's the best thing, that's one of the biggest things I picked up a couple years ago is paying yourself first. Take a percentage of your money, your paycheck that you get paid each week, trading your time for dollars, and then invest that into assets, which are, precious metals or whatever you prefer in that field. We'll go ahead and wrap it up tonight, Luke. Because I appreciate the time. Always appreciate the value. You brought the fire as usual. Just great, man. Like I say, I want to mention, guys, the book he mentioned, Harry Dent, 0 Hours. Pick that up, And the other book he showed at the beginning. Hold that up for us, the
Yeah,
viewers.
so the end of freedom.
The End of Freedom. How our
Yeah, so how
monetary,
our monetary system enslaves us.
yeah.
So the author is John Thor Stubbs Tyson. So he's
You can
he's from
text it to me
Switzerland.
and I'll put it in the description. Text it
Yeah,
to me and
definitely,
I'll put it in the description for everybody. Yeah.
for sure. I will. And thanks for having me, Jason. And you take care, eh?
Yeah, that'll work, man. Like I say, guys, we appreciate you viewing tonight. And hey, pay attention to guys. Saturday is going to be a big day for our channel, Precious Metal Mania. Me and Colby are going to be on. We're going to be having a humongous guest. We confirmed that today. So please be looking out about 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. It's going to be great. We're going to have a super guest on and super pumped. Lucas, thank you. Thank you as always for coming on, bringing the fire, man. Look, come on anytime. We appreciate you. And we'll get those links in the description for the viewers, for the books, and any other content you provide. Thanks, buddy. Have a great night.
Thanks a lot, Jason. Thanks a lot, everybody. And you have a good night. Take care.
Thanks.